This is Andy Purewal for Boxing Social in association with Betfred, and I'm delighted to be joined by Fabio Wardley over Zoom. Fabio, we haven't had a chance to speak yet, so obviously congratulations on your victory just over a week ago. Talk to me about that. Let's go back to that. Talk about your win against Eric Molina.
Yeah, it was good. Overall, good night's work. Don't get me wrong, not my best, not my cleanest performance, not the one I'm most happy with, but ultimately it was the test we needed at that point in my career. He posed a lot of different questions. There was a few obstacles and things I had to get past to obviously get the win, but we did it and we passed all those tests and things. So overall, I'm happy with the win and the level of Molina and the status of him as a fighter versus kind of where I was at with my career and stuff. It's a good one to chalk up on the board.
There's a couple of things with the fight I just want to ask you about. Starting off with kind of Eric's kind of approach to it, because building up to it, a lot of people didn't think he would be maybe as active as what he was for as long as what the fight lasted, and certainly up until the point of the stoppage, he was giving back as good as he got. Was that exactly what you expected? Was you surprised maybe that the kind of a stoppage came in the manner that it did, because it came at a point when the both of you were kind of trading off a bit more on each other?
Yeah, I was slightly. I wasn't surprised at how he came out. I was surprised at how long he kind of maintained that for. I thought if he was going to come, it'd be interesting for maybe a round or two, and then he'd fade off. But he came and he was there all the way through. But the stoppage, the way to get to him was only going to be like that, because he worked in spits and spats. So he worked when he wanted to, and then when he decided he was going to have whatever time off, he just kind of leant back onto that back foot and cocked that right hand and just kind of went into a bit of a half shell and just very defensive, and then backed off for a bit and then went when he wanted to go, which made it a bit difficult for me to kind of open up and find certain gaps and things while I know that all he's waiting for is a little misstep, a little slip, and he wants to get that right hand off. So I had to be a bit cautious of that. So the only way to kind of get him to open up was to kind of do those toe-to-toe firefights.
With kind of the stoppage itself, people over social media, some anyway, were kind of suggesting Eric could have done more to get up. What did you make of it?
It's easy to say, isn't it, when you're sat on the other side, that that guy that just got punched in the face a couple of times should have got up. Like it is what it is. Like if Eric wanted to get up, I think he could have, but he just, like, the shots were too much, and he just decided that there was no way of him getting through this. And sometimes it's like that's the way it goes. Sometimes you just realise that you're the beaten man there. That he hit me with probably one of his best shots. He hit me clean, and I rode that and came back firing. And I think that kind of just demoralised him a bit, to think that he thought the tables turned so quickly that he thought he had me on the run, he had me going, and then it turned so quickly to him being sprawled on his back, and thought, actually, you know what, I'm clearly not going to get nowhere with this.
I was going to ask you, he did at one point seem to catch you, and I don't know whether hurt or wobble is words or that you would agree with, but kind of when he did catch you, what did you make of it?
I was more just annoyed at myself, because that we knew what he was doing with that right hand. We knew he was just set it and cocking it and trying to get it off as a counter. And it was my fault, a slight lapse in concentration, me being a bit lazy. That obviously got me caught by, but I was fine. My legs were still completely there, my head was still completely there. I was perfectly fine. It was just I wanted to take that shot and back up and reset and go again, so I didn't kind of get stuck into something. But he followed up on me and pressed me back. So I thought, okay, cool. Well, rode a few of those shots, slipped a few of them, and then came back with my own and fired off and got him down.
As I mentioned, some people have social media suggesting he could have done more to get back up, and people were critical of Richard Lartey in your last fight. Is it frustrating for yourself to maybe not receive the credit you feel you probably deserve?
I don't really, like, it doesn't matter to me. Like, I know what happened in the ring. I know I'm happy with the way it went. My team is we're relatively happy with how it went. Like I say, my overall performance wasn't great, but still, to come up with the win, to do what we did, to get home safe and everything is all I really need. I think sometimes you can get a bit too caught up with everyone else's opinion of the fight and how they think it went, and when ultimately the only ones you really know are the people in that ring. So as long as I'm good with it and we're good with it, I don't mind. because whichever way it went, I was going to get criticism. If I'd have blasted him out in a round with a massive right hand and he'd have been absolutely sparko asleep on the floor, everyone would have been like, yeah, well, he's washed up, he's done. You wouldn't like he didn't come to fight, he came to roll over, blah blah blah. But then if I go a few rounds, we mix it a bit, and then it's the other side of the criticism of you struggled with Molina and this and that and everything else. So there's no way to win it. There's always going to be criticism one way or the other. But I don't mind it. It just comes with the territory.
Do you think there is an opponent out there for your next fight, another step up for yourself, that if a bout could be made between the pair of you, it wouldn't maybe receive that criticism?
Yeah, someone like probably Nathan Gorman. If depending on what kind of Nathan Gorman turns up, and what shape he comes in. Like I say, but it's a difficult one because they'll always find something. They'll always say that, oh, well, he'd lost to Dubois now, so he's not the same person he was, or on all of this, which isn't necessarily true. It's not. That doesn't mean anything. But people will always find something to pick at. It's just, unfortunately, it is just the way of the sport sometimes that there are certain people in it that just want to kind of dampen the mood of it all.
Just on Nathan Gorman, I believe he fought on the same day as you, obviously on the Frank Warren show. They had back-to-back shows on a Friday and a Saturday. Stopped Pavel Soa. I don't know whether you watched it or not, but what is kind of your thoughts if you have?
I haven't seen it. Obviously, he fought the same night as me, so I wasn't going to watch it. I had my own things to attend to, and to be fair, I haven't had time really to catch up on it since. So I don't really know much. All I know is he stopped him, I think maybe in the third or fourth, something like that. But I haven't actually seen the details of it.
Do you think that fight could happen next then, as you've mentioned him there?
Possibly. Is it obviously the difficulty being is that we're on two different sides of the river. Which is always a problem. So unless it physically gets called by the board, in terms, because I know we've both openly said we'd like to fight for the British title. So, but again, that's more of a waiting game to see what Joe does with the belt. Ultimately, it's still his belt. We're all assuming that he's going to drop it and go for the Usyk fight and do whatever and progress forward. But at the moment, as it stands, it's still his belt to do what he wants with. So it's a difficult one. So I think maybe not next, maybe not immediately next. Maybe we'll both just have another good fight on the in-between time, let the rest of the kind of the landscape play out a bit, and then go from there with it.
How good of a domestic affair do you think about between yourself and Nathan would be, Fabio?
It'd be great. I think our styles gel really well. Like I have a lot of respect for Nathan. I spent a lot of time with him. When he was getting ready for the Dubois fight. I was up with him in Manchester for about 4 or 5 weeks or whatever, helping him get ready. So we built a bit of a relationship, and with, like I say, some of those spars are really tasty. So we know it'd be a good fight, and I've got the utmost respect for him as a fighter as well. So I think it'd just be a good fight, but it's just, like I say, it depends on the landscape and stuff and kind of what's going on with around us.
Now, I can imagine you will say what many say, you can't really read too much into the sparring sessions, but what inside knowledge can you give us on your past experiences with Nathan?
Yeah, it's the thing. It's a difficult one because you can't read into him. I never think it's fair for anyone to kind of pick at a sparring session because they're designed as practice. So we may go in there one day and he may absolutely punch me all over the place, and then the next day I'll go in and I'll absolutely punch him all over the place. But it doesn't mean that one's got the better of the other. It means that he's decided on one day to work on something specifically, and maybe I have, and whatever else. And we're working out the kinks in our armor, as opposed to going in there completely fresh, completely ready, like it would be on a fight night with all our game plans in our pocket and everything else. So they were just good. They were good spars. Like I say, I just think our styles go together very well.
Another man who wants to face Nathan Gorman is David Adelaide. He's called for that fight a few times now. What are your thoughts on David Adelaide, very early stages of his pro career?
He's doing a lot of talking with not much to warrant it, which I think is the kind of same sentiment that Nathan shares as well. But it's all fun and games, you talking the talk, but you haven't done nothing yet to show you can walk the walk, really. Don't get me wrong, you've had a few fights, you've had a few wins, great, but against absolutely zero kinds of a level of opponent. They've all been journeymen. The last one was a debutant, wasn't he, I think? And I think he came in at about 14 and a half, near 115 stone. So You've not shared the ring with a real heavyweight yet. You've not shared the ring with someone who's been around the block, who's got experience, who's got some level, who's going to test you. Don't get me wrong, you've blitzed through everything that's been in front of you, and credit to you for that. But that's nothing to rave about. Exactly. I think you should take the time, kind of focus on building yourself as a fighter, and worry about someone like Nathan or something like that later down the line, because he's even said my name in the past. And again, I've said the same thing. You're not near my level. You've done nothing compared to what I've done so far. You've not even been in anything close to a 50-50 fight yet. So yeah, I think with David and the whole Nathan thing, he's don't get me wrong, he's doing his thing in terms of trying to build his reputation and get his name out there, and I understand all that. I'm not against that. I know why people do it, but at the same time, you need to understand what level you're at in comparison to someone like me or someone like Nathan.
Fabio, just going back to your bill on March 27th, just touch on the other heavyweight fights on the night. Nick Webb stopping Eric Pfeiffer, a man who's recently teamed up with Dillian Whyte and manages him as well. Just your thoughts on Nick's win?
Yeah, credit to him. Credit to Nick. Because don't get me wrong, he came in as the B-side, he came in as the away fighter. And kind of upset the apple cart, because with Pfeiffer's amateur history, his amateur background, he came in there kind of highly touted, and we really thought we was going to see a bit of a showcase, if anything. But it just goes to show that sometimes the pro game and the amateur game are very different. The spotlights, the event, the occasion, and everything can sometimes get to people. And like I say, credit to Nick. He seemingly dealt with it all very well and came out on top. So he's only got nothing but up from here for him to go.
And the all action and very entertaining. Alan Babbage was in the bubble, and after that fight, he said immediately he's jumping in interviews saying he wants Nick Webb next. He wants Nick Webb. How does Alan deal with Nick Webb in your eyes, Fabio?
I think Alan's style is a bit of a nightmare for Nick. I think after a few rounds, once you put some pressure on him and things like that, I think Babbage is the type to he's relentless. He just doesn't let you breathe. And I think especially for a heavyweight, it's hard for them to deal with, because it's not something they're used to. Especially someone who with Nick, who's a bit bigger, a bit heavier. Like he's not the most light-footed. He's not bouncing. He's not floating around enough. So there's not going to be too much evasion with his feet to get away from Babbage. So I think that will pose a lot of problems. I think Babbage would rough him up, get into the ropes, get him in corners, and just unload.
And then, of course, your manager, Dillian Whyte, returning with a victory against Alexander Povetkin, avenging that loss. Just your thoughts on his stoppage victory as well?
Yeah, fantastic performance. I think it was everything I was saying it was going to be in the build-up. That it's a bit of the old Dillian Whyte, the one that he was building in some time and trying to find that balance of knowing when to kind of step on the gas when opponents hurt a bit, and then knowing when maybe to ease off and not go too gung-ho, too crazy. And I think he's found that nice, happy balance now that we saw in a couple of previous fights, that sometimes he'd let fighters off the hook and he'd be a bit too clean and a bit too nicey about it. But like you saw in that fight, there was no kind of letting off on that one. Every time he had him hurt and him waddled, he pressed on it and pressed it, and obviously came out on top. So it was great, and I was buzzing.
We know Dillian, he was mandatory for WBC title opportunity for a long time, up until that first fight. Obviously, it never happened, and now he's since then, he's called for the Deontay Wilder bout on the back of his victory against Alexander Povetkin. How big of a fight do you feel that would be, Fabio, between Dillian and Deontay, if a deal could be agreed? That's provided Fury AJ was to happen in the background.
Yeah, it'd be massive. It'd be absolutely massive, because not just because of the fight between themselves, because then what it would bring after the whole AJ Fury thing, when that gets done, dealed and signed off and whatever, and they have their two fights, that it would be the fight for who's then the next to go at them, because whoever is the next to go at them goes for all of them, not just for one. They go for all the belts. So it'd be a great position to be in. And then that mixed with, if you want to put that aside, and just how much of a good fight it would be on its own without anything attached, the back and forth between them two, you're thinking about the build up, the media, the press conference, all of that stuff would be such a big event. It'd be great.
And then final thing, Fabio, your best mate over social media, Ebony Bridges, he's travelling over. I don't know if she's here or she's travelling over from Australia, as she obviously faces she faces Shannon Courts now. I forgot for a second. Yeah, faces Shannon Courts now for the WBA world title. Just kind of your thoughts on Ebony's travels and how do you think she'll fare with Shannon?
I think it's a great fight. I think it is a great fight. It's been fun. Me and Ev have had some like back and forths on social media and on Twitter and stuff, and just some light-hearted banter and stuff. So there's been a bit of a mix with my name and hers, but it's but not to take away from just how much of a good fight it is, because Shannon's a real good operator, and I think it's just interesting to see what Ebony's going to do on a show like this and an event like this. I don't think she's been on a kind of an event like this before, so it will be interesting to see kind of what she does and what she can bring to the fight when she's got someone like Shannon in front of her. But don't get me wrong, I'm always rooting for the home team, so I'm always here for. I'd obviously like, as much as I'm good with Ebony and it's a laugh and a joke, and that I'd always root for the home team.
So you are Team Courtenay?
Team Courtenay all the way.
Will you be in the bubble, Fabio?
No, I won't be in the bubble at all. I'm not there to distract the fighters. They got a big night going on, so I'll be watching at home like a spectator, like the rest of us.
All right, Fabio, it's a pleasure to catch up with you. I'll leave you to enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for your time and thanks for speaking to Boxing Social.
No worries, mate. Cheers. Catch you in a bit.